Hi there, Dr. Rajiv Iyer here from IMG Secrets. I welcome you all to this live session. And we try to do this live session the Saturday of every month. Usually we try to keep it the last Saturday of the month. Now in July, we would not be having this live session, but rather we would be having an in-person session. So I'm traveling to India where I'm going to do an in-person session. So I encourage you to book this if you're interested in meeting us in person and then getting guidance and coaching. So I also have two of my esteemed colleagues joining me for this session. Both of them are practicing physicians in the USA, and we try to guide you as much as possible as to what would be the best career options for you. Now, if you're not someone who is residing there in India, but rather want to attend virtually, we have also established a virtual session for this that you can book, and we would be sending a link for you on probably most likely Zoom, so you can join and interact with us so you can get benefit out of this session. You can look at all the details from our website about this. Now, before I get started with what I wanted to say, I also want to congratulate one of our candidate, Claudia, who got matched, or rather I shouldn't say matched, who got into a very reputed radiology fellowship in one of the reputed programs in Boston. So congratulations. So that was very exciting working with you, and I'm really happy to see that you've moved in the right direction. Now, if you want to ask me any questions, you're more than welcome to post this, and so I will start taking your questions. And in the meanwhile, if you decide to join live and ask me questions, you're welcome to do that as well. So let me do this. And so through this link, you can click on it and then join me. But remember, if you join me, you're going to be broadcasted both live. Your video and audio would be all over the internet. So keep that in mind. And I do have a few comments, so let me take that. Let me move this. All right. So Dr. Bami Kefa says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining, and continues to say thank you for all you do. It's my pleasure. And also make sure you do put in where exactly you're from, so I know I do have some context, and when I'm answering questions, so exactly know how to guide you with your particular situation. All right, let me try to get rid of this. Perfect. Okay. All right. Getting back to question. All right. So Dr. Bamikafa asks, I will need clarification as what is necessary for registration with CPSL. So I assume you're talking about how to get a license. So that really depends on what is your background. What are you moving as? Are you looking to get a fellowship and trying to get a training license, in which case the hospital will give you all the paperwork for you to apply for a licensure? But on the contrary, are you moving in as directly as a consultant or an attending physician, in which case the same thing would happen? See, for IMGs, one of the important things is to remember the bottleneck is finding a position. If you find a position, I've been saying this, the license, registration, and even the visa usually happens pretty seamlessly in our experience. So focus on finding that position that's going to get you all of these. I am receiving a call, so you can call me back. I'll pick up your call so we can talk. All right, so I do have a comment from IPS Bajwa who says, hello sir, hello. And the next question from Dr. Farheen says, I want to ask. Sure, go ahead. Kumar says, hi sir, hi Dr. Kumar. Dr. Nitin Malhotra says, good day sir. Nitin Malhotra here from India, but presently in Russia. Fantastic. Thank you all for joining. Dr. Bami Kafa says, will call duty be paid to supplement the earnings during fellowship? If you are a fully licensed, then yes, you can get paid. There are some moonlighting options that you can pick up. If you're an IMG coming out of the system, you're on a training license, you cannot. Dr. Shweta says, hello sir. Hello Dr. Shweta. Alright. Dr. Farheen says, if you take a career gap after MBBS due to family reasons and no research work in between, will it affect USMLE? I don't get the question. I mean, do you mean settling in the USA? Then yes, if there is any career gap and if the CV is not up to the mark and you do have no research work, these all pull you back. However, there are many things you could do in order to fill all those gaps. So essentially finding research positions or other type of positions is how you can build your CV. So when you apply for any positions after a career gap, so you show that you've been doing something more productive. You've been in touch with, let's say, patients, not directly as a physician or a doctor, but somehow you've been working in a hospital. It could be a research position, could be an assistant position, could be anything. So these are some of the things you would use to fill those gaps. All right. IPS Bajwa says, my name is Dr. Inder. Okay. I completed my MBBS from Ukraine. Then I got my PR in Ukraine. Okay. Completed my PG in Ukraine in internal medicine. Okay. If you have any questions, you can post it. That's good to know. Dr. Krishnan says, sir, I have completed MD pulmonary medicine in India. Okay. Dr. Malhotra says, I'm in Russia for son's convocation. He's Dr. Meherpal Malhotra. Okay. Can you guide on pathways as specialist in pulmonary medicine in Australia? It depends on where you're training from. Now, if you are already trained in countries like Canada, USA, UK, then the pathway is pretty straightforward. You pick one of the specialist pathways. If your training is not from one of these places, then you would have to move in either as a registrar or a fellow and then climb up in order to reach a stage where you become a fellow. Now, a fellow in Australia is referred to as someone who has completed their fellowship in the Australian and New Zealand Royal College. In other words, this person is now considered a consultant. Making sense so far? So do let me know if these questions I'm answering is actually helping you. And if you do want to join live, I've shared the link and you can always join using that. I can share the link once again. All right, let's go back to the questions. All right, Mr. Malhotra says, my son is interested in moving to Canada as a successful doctor. Okay. Well, if your son is done only MBBS, then obviously his option is to do residency. Now, if your son has already completed residency or PG, doesn't matter where it is, and you believe he can come with a strong application, then I always encourage to explore clinical fellowships, because clinical fellowships, in my opinion, is actually one of the best ways to enter either the USA or Canada. I mean, these are not easy to find, not easy to get, but taking the right approach, we have seen IMGs being successful through clinical fellowships. And of course, if you have to speak to us, you can always book an appointment from our website, and we'll be happy to chat you one-on-one to provide the exact guidance on how to approach your situation. All right, so the next question is from Dr. Mimuna. Says, I'm from Pakistan, currently in Netherlands. Okay, I have done MBBS and FCPS gynecology fellowship, 4 years from Pakistan. I'm not working as this is a Dutch country. Is there any way for me? I have to be very frank with you that I'm not very familiar firsthand with the options that exist with Netherlands. So this is something I have to go back to speak to some of my European colleagues or my European friends to figure out what other options do exist. So you can always reach out to us via emails, and we can see how best to answer your question. All right. Dr. Christian says, hello everyone. All right. I have completed MD Pulmonary Medicine in India. Okay. Have 2 years post MD experience. Kindly guide on specialist pathway in Australia and how to get job there. So initially you can explore positions like fellowship in Australia too. So many times many fellowships do expect that you have the AMC exam. This used to not to be the case, but when I'm speaking more and more to my Australian friends, they've been saying that the Australia is expecting people to complete AMC exams. But either ways, I would still consider, because you already have a specialist training in pulmonary medicine from India, that probably exploring a fellowship would be your first step, and then you move across the ladder. See, Australia, UK do not have a organized residency program unlike the USA, Canada, India, and other countries. What happens in USA, Canada is you enter a PG, you finish certain number of years, you complete your PG, you're done. That is not the case in other countries, many other countries. So you have to move through many steps, complete a few exams, and then eventually be what is called as a consultant equivalent. All right. Dr. Chaudhary says, hello, sir. I am a postdoc fellow in Texas. Excellent. I am a cardiologist trained in India. Completed step 3 and MRCP. I don't intend to enter residency all over again. I feel your pain because you've already done a fellowship. Now, is this postdoc fellow a clinical fellowship or a research fellowship? That can make a difference. If this is a clinical fellowship, then I would certainly say you can explore an additional fellowship or maybe even directly an attending physician position in the USA through what is called as the alternate entry pathway, through which you can be certified. So that is what I would encourage you to do. Now, if you are doing not a clinical fellowship but a research fellowship, then we would have to explore, what exactly your options might be. My comment you did not read. If you have a question, you feel free to post a question. Excuse me, Dr. Inder, if you have a question, post your question. All right. Dr. Oza says, I'm an Indian resident in orthopedics. Is it easy for me to continue orthopedics in Tennessee or other states? Throw some light regarding pros and cons, and what should I be focusing right now? See, let me tell you, in general, nothing is easy, okay, because there is intense competition going on. There are many people thinking like you all, trying to establish their career in the USA, Canada, and many other countries. So I wouldn't say anything is easy. But in order to be successful in orthopedics, you have to be an outstanding candidate in terms of your CV, in which case you can certainly explore Tennessee and other options. There are no cons, okay? If you're interested in moving to the USA, I wouldn't say all the cons are minor cons. There are only pros, and you could certainly explore these options. Now, if you're someone who come with a CV that's not, that's fairly slim, meaning you've done your MBBS, you've done your MS orthopedics, nothing much activities outside, then I would say your most likely option might be to go back into training all over again, in which case you will have to build your CV to get there, okay? Especially orthopedic is an extremely competitive specialties. We have seen IMGs being successful in orthopedics through alternate entry path program. I personally know them, and they've been very successful coming through fellowships, no residency training. But again, remember, there are two things here. Number one is your CV must be outstanding. And number two, there should be opportunities available when you're actually applying. So right now, there are quite a few specialties that is in crisis. The top two I can think of is anesthesiology and radiology. There is a huge shortage going on. And if you belong to these specialties, this is a perfect time to move forward. And also there are many other specialties, not just these two. So Dr. Chowdhury says, what are my chances for alternate pathway as a specialist? See, remember, whenever you think of alternate pathway, what the hospitals are looking for is someone who can be extremely productive in research, in education, and the CV is so impressive that the hospital or the chief feels like, oh, we should definitely hire this person no matter what. And these are some of the candidates who become successful through alternate entry path program. Now, this requires an intense analysis of your CV, of your goals and things like that. In general, without much context, these are really difficult to answer these type of questions on a platform like this. And this is the whole reason why we have this one-on-one video calls where we sit and really analyze your situation. So for those reasons, in general, I would say, if you can come up with a very strong application, you have an outstanding CV, you do stand a chance. But if there are problems there, then it's going to be extremely difficult to sell your application through the alternate pathway. All right, so my son is fresh IMG from Russia who's been eyeing on all our videos. Thank you very much. We would like to follow you from visitor visa to work visa. I'm sure we'll be certainly happy to guide you depending on where your son is and where he wants to get to. So if you're interested, you can always speak to us one-on-one and we'll be more than happy to take a look at his CV and then look at exactly what is going on and tell him the clear next steps, what he has to take in order to be successful. Dr. Fareen asks, so just observership can help me to fill that career gap? Usually not. See, an observership helps to add something to your CV. Now, whether you do a 1 month observership or a 1 year observership, it usually doesn't make a huge difference. An observership in an application is treated as an observership. I mean, if I'm the person hiring an IMG, I'm not going to see how long they have done an observership. Have they done for 2 weeks or 2 months? An observership is an observership. I would treat this more like a all or none phenomena. Now, I wouldn't say an observership can fill all your career gaps. It certainly can add certain things to your CV, but I would say you must still explore some much better options than observerships in order to fill your career gap. All right. Dr. Sheikh says, I'm a respiratory consultant in the UK for almost 10 years. I also have ECFMG certification in 1993. What pathway for me? Oh, great. Now the question is, do you have a CCT? Are you through the Caesar pathway? Or you have none of these? Now that would determine what your next steps would be. If you have a CCT, then I would certainly explore the approved jurisdiction route in Canada. If you do not have a CCT or Caesar for that matter, then probably a fellowship. But again, you have to be extremely careful in terms of preparing your application for a fellowship because you've been out of practice for many years, meaning you're very experienced. At this stage of your life, the question is, why do you want to get back to fellowship? So that is what you have to justify in your application when you submit it. Okay, making sense? All right. Mr. Malhotra says, we choose you as a mentor for my son. Dr. Malhotra, sure. As I said, I'll be glad to take a look at his CV and then provide guidance to the best of my knowledge. Dr. Sheikh says, my ECFMG certification based on FMG day 1 and day 2. I'm not entirely sure if I get the question, but bottom line, if you're ECFMG certified way back, those are valid for a long time, pretty much through the life. It's only recently they changed the ECFMG certification validity duration. All right. The question is, how easy is it to get PR during fellowship in Canada? If it's a clinical fellowship, I would say it's fairly easy. You basically have to submit an application using the Canadian Experience class. And this is exactly how I got my Canadian PR when I applied for it, using Canadian Experience class. It was very straightforward. I did not use an immigration consultant. I did everything on my own. And I got my Canadian PR in a span of few months. Dr. Inder says, can I get clinical fellowship program in Canada because I want to move in? Canada or USA? Well, if you have completed a PG from your home country, then you do stand a chance of applying. Of course, you have to come up with a strong application, and then you can certainly explore all the fellowships. How easy are job opportunities as a consultant after completing clinical fellowship in Canada? This depends on two things. One is how outstanding you turn out to be. Meaning, is the hospital you're working in as a fellow so impressed that they want to keep you in their own hospital, or they want to recommend you to a different hospital? Number one. Number two, what are the job opportunities that exist when you're ready to apply? Now, if both of these things align, there is a pretty good chance one can directly become a consultant. And usually in Canada, this is people begin with what I refer to as the province-based specialist pathway, and then transition to become a unlimited, unrestricted license. Doing residency again in US is better, or Tennessee pathway is better for IMG doctors? I'm not. If an IMG has done a residency from a reputed program in their home country, I'm not a big fan of repeating the residency all over again in the US, just for the sake of doing it. Of course, for most people, repeating may be the only option, but as much as possible, if you come with an outstanding background, I would say try to explore all options where you can skip residency. And that's exactly what we tell people to do, and that's exactly what I did myself. Alright, how to apply for limited state license in Tennessee, Florida, etc. starting July 2024. When will InThealth and RMP come up with guidelines for alternative pathway? So here's the thing. Do not apply for any license on your own. The first step you need to do is find a position. If you find a position, there will be enough support from the hospital for you to apply for a license. It's not just you, but many IMGs have gone to state medical boards. They make many phone calls. They just, the people in state medical boards are very busy, right? You just don't want to keep bugging them, bothering them with all these things. So instead of going for a license, go for a position. And then based on that, secure your license, secure your registration, secure your visa, and other things. So I wouldn't apply for the limited state license at all, unless you have a position and support from the hospital. Making sense? Well, there is no news yet as to how the other organizations would function with I wouldn't say the alternate pathway, but I would say the limited licensing options that exist, because the alternate pathway is already well established. An alternate pathway is essentially where an IMG will bypass his or her residency and then move directly through a fellowship and then become a consultant, or directly move to USA, Canada as a consultant. And these are very well established. Almost all specialties have this, and we have been guiding a lot of people through these pathways. And there are specific ways to approach this, and we've been doing this. All right. The next question says, by the way, I do want to remind you, if someone wants to join on the call, you're more than welcome to join, talk to me, and ask questions. All right. The next question says, is there any way for Australia or Canada after fellowship from Pakistan? Yeah, so I would say explore clinical fellowships. I mean, both in Australia and Canada, and those would be in my opinion, the best way to move. Again, none of them is easy to get in, but as long as you're able to come up with a strong application and you get in, then the subsequent steps will become a lot more easier. And we see this happen all the time. And even as recently as last month, 2 months ago, we've seen people transitioning through these steps and becoming successful. So I strongly encourage you to explore the same thing. All right. Dr. Raghu says, hello, Dr. Iyer. Hello. I am a consultant endocrine surgeon. Okay. 12 years post MCS training, wanting to try Tennessee pathway direct consultant job. Now, the catch in your case is you're in surgery and you're in a field that is extremely specialized. And the expectation for Tennessee pathway is that you have to be ECFMG certified. If so, you could try it, but I would say instead of trying the Tennessee pathway or direct consultant job, oh, by the way, you didn't tell me where your training is from, so I assume it's from India. And so based on that, I would say explore a fellowship, and then try to go through next steps. All right. Dr. Inder says your appointment is very costly. Well, let me tell you, the value is what you pay for. Given the number of people we talk to, it's extremely difficult to manage my life, my time, the time of our experts who have their own family life, and we are all practicing doctors in the USA, and we do this whenever we have some free time. So the value we provide is what is more important. It is not so much what you pay today, but if I guide you how to become a consultant, okay, directly, without doing anything, the amount of value for return you're seeing is almost 2,000 times. Okay, so you have to focus on the value, and you pay what you get. You get what you pay for. Remember that. See, I don't expect you to pay or anything. I'm not here for that. But if you want guidance, happy to help. If you want free option, that's exactly what I'm doing here. All right. Dr. Raghu says, do I have to try endocrine surgeon's job or general surgeon jobs? I would say focus on. I have to look at. So what we normally do, Dr. Raghu, is that when IMGs come to us for a specific help, we actually sit with them one-on-one and explore all the options. In your case, most likely you should explore the endocrine fellowship and not general surgery fellowships. Don't explore jobs, but rather focus on fellowships is what I'm saying. All right. So we do have someone join the call. Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
It's my pleasure.
I am in Canada with the sponsorship visa and applied for PR. And I graduated in 2021 from Romania.
Okay.
So I have no experience, no qualification, no nothing. And so in Canada, as I know, for the CARMS approach, but I need to work and thrive during this journey. So what do you think? Do you have any like something common to work.
Yeah. So you said you finished your training, your MBBS or medical school in 2021, and
Yes.
you've been in Canada since then?
Yeah. No, I came 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Okay. Now, are you a permanent resident of Canada?
Open work permits and the process, under the process, which take maybe 2 years, something like that.
Okay. And what residency are you thinking of?
Family medicine.
Okay. Okay. So, so most people think of family medicine because under the presumption is it is one of the most IMG friendly fellowship. Okay, agree
Yeah.
with you. And
Also,
the
work-life balance. It's
Sure, sure. Well, so as you know, unfortunately, the expectation is that in Canada, you have to be either a permanent resident or a citizen before you actually apply for residency matching, right?
yeah.
Plus, you have to finish exams like MCCQ1, NAC. Then you have to complete a lot of different provincial based requirements, and then you become eligible to apply for residency. Now, all these, if you have not started any of these, is expected to take 2 to 3 years, right?
2 years.
Yeah. So during this phase, you have to do every bit to improvise on your CV. Okay. So every line on your CV is going to be considered valuable. Now, there are the best case scenario is to find a research position. You know, this could be a research fellowship, a research associate, or anything. Again, I agree that it's not easy to find, but you have to desperately try. What part of Canada are you in?
Quebec.
In Quebec. And how is your French?
But but I'm
Okay.
willing to move
Oh,
if I
okay.
get any
Well,
chance.
what part of Quebec are you in?
Montreal.
Okay. Well, the closest thing I can think of is McGill and maybe University of Ottawa. I know Ottawa is far for you, but these are some of the options where you can explore and try to find this. Now, that's the best case scenario. Now, for any reason you can't find a research position, then you may want to think of doing some volunteer work or something like that. But actually, see, bottom line is you have to get close to hospitals. You have to start talking to people who are family medicine physicians and then start making connections. So that's how you get your leads. You know, one by one, you start talking to people, and then they say, hey, you know what, something exists there, something exists here, why don't you look at that, why don't you look at this. So you have to be very proactive in terms of exploring everything. You find nothing, you desperately look for volunteer position. Of course, by definition it's not paid, but use that as a stepping stone and then try to find research positions. So bottom line is, in these next 2 years, as you're completing all your residency requirements, you also would complete all the steps that is required to build your CV.
But
Because
will be like 4 years gaps. This is will like lower the chances to match with the. You think?
well, so that is the reason why you have to do all these interim steps in order to say that you have been in touch with something in
Mm.
family medicine or with hospital. Yes, the longer gap you give, the lesser the chance it gets to get into residency. And that's why it's so important to fill those gaps. And those gaps can be filled either through research positions or through clinical positions. Now, the clinical positions won't be working as a
Yeah.
doctor, but rather working as an assistant to a doctor, or like a front desk person, something like that. So the challenge in your case is the fact that you do have an open work permit, and open work permit per se doesn't give you any job. Of course, in theory it can give a job, but you may have to spend a lot more time doing volunteering and then building your CV until you actually get to a position where really you could someone is willing to take you into something,
Mm.
and then
I get
hopefully convert that into a closed permit. But bottom line, you have to spend a lot more time in order to establish your CV and build on it.
Mhm. I got you.
Mm.
Look, do you have like any idea if this exam, English exam, CLP, Canadian, It's more easy than OET or IELTS.
What exam? The CELPIP?
CLEP, this language exam test.
To be frank, I don't have a comparison of what is easier or what is more difficult. The information I have on our end is the fact that all of them are equally painful and all of them are, pretty much very comparable.
Oh, okay.
I
Thank you
also,
so much.
if this is an option, I also encourage you to strongly consider the US options too. And assuming you have the amount of time and money to invest on things like USMLE and things like that, because the chance of success are a lot higher in the US as compared to Canada.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and attention.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Nice talking to you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's fantastic. All right, moving on to next question. My most of family is in the USA. Now, I would like to move USA or Canada. So, as I said, your options come to there are three options. Okay, clinically, residency, fellowship, consultant, or non-clinical options. So, depending on what your background is, you would use one of those in order to move forward. Dr. Singh asks, hello sir, I'm from India. I'm a postgraduate in psychiatry, completed post MD DNB. I have an experience of 2 years in the same field. I'm interested in moving to Canada. What is the best option? Okay, so let's see. You have already done PG and this is psychiatry. I would say the best option is probably still a clinical fellowship. Now, psychiatry is a specialty where people find more benefit being trained in these countries. Like if you're functioning in the USA, training in the USA or in Canada, this is because the nature of psychiatric problems and the way psychiatric disease is approached is a lot different in these countries as compared to, let's say India, because the prevalence of psychiatric problem is extremely high in US, Canada, and many of these countries. So I would say probably the best option is still a fellowship that you can explore. Dr. Sheikh says, I have Caesar pathway. All right, now we are talking. Well, if you have a Caesar pathway, I would strongly encourage to take the clinical fellowship option and then start exploring the approved jurisdiction route. This probably would be the best case scenario for you. All right, sir, can IMG match in neurosurgery in the USA? Yes, possible, assuming you take the right approach. In fact, I'm very happy to say one of our own candidates, a neurosurgeon, matched into a very reputed program in Philadelphia, and now that person received many interviews both in Canada and the USA, and then finally he actually took the option in Philly. Okay, yes, possible, assuming you take the right approach. With no, I have to add, with no previous US or Canadian experience. All right. So the next question is, I'm FCPS qualified specialist from Pakistan. My question is, to apply for equivalency of my degree from WES, should I choose IRCC for credential assessment or the other option in application? This, I am not entirely sure of the answer to this question at the top of my head. You may want to send us an email and we'll try to see if we can get back to you with an answer. All right, Dr. Online, or maybe I don't know what the name is. If my medical school doesn't have a sponsor nor accreditation, but is on the list of WDOMS, can I use the alternate pathway? You unfortunately cannot. The present expectation is that you must be from a college or school recognized by World Director of Medical Schools, and secondly, there should be a sponsor note, either from ECFMG or from Medical Council of Canada for Canada. Now, ECFMG might decide to move away from this, but right now the expectation is you do have this. Can a neurosurgeon in India practice in USA? No, you cannot. The best option is to explore clinical fellowships or other types of options, which then lets you enter the system and then explore options to practice in the USA. I am a final year MD dermatology resident in India. I want to settle in Canada or USA and practice. What is the right pathway to follow? Is there a way to omit repeating dermatology residency over there? Now, since you're still a student doing your residency, so I assume you don't have much, again, I'm assuming you don't have much research or other types of experiences. So for those reasons, in your case, it might be, again, I haven't looked at your CV, but in general, it might be difficult to skip residency, especially in a specialization like dermatology, because dermatology is extremely competitive. Okay, so there are 4 specialties that are extremely competitive. So anesthesia, radiology, ophthalmology, or I should say anesthesia, radiology, dermatology, and surgical specialties. These are extremely competitive ones. All right. Dr. Mishra says, hello, sir. I'm Dr. Swati, ENT surgeon in India. I'm planning to move to USA as per the Tennessee pathway. Is completing USMLE would be enough for this pathway? So completing USMLE is one of the steps you need to move. You require to move to the USA or Tennessee. But what is more important is whether can you find a position that actually can hire you. Can you put forward a cover letter that's compelling enough that people feel like reading? Do you have a CV that's solid enough that can sell yourself to say that someone can hire you as an ENT surgeon? So these are many things. There is not just one thing that you would need, but it's like a package that you would need in order to move forward. What are the materials I need to study for MCCQ1 and which province is easy to migrate in Canada? Well, these are 2 questions. So the materials for MCCQ1 are pretty much similar to the materials you need for USMLE Step 2 CK. So essentially what we see people do is go through USMLE World for Step 2 CK, First Aid for Step 2 CK. And for things that are very Canadian specific, they look at things like Toronto notes and stuff like that. And of course, there are many other study materials, but bottom line is these are some of the high yield stuff. I don't think there is any province that is easy to migrate, but bottom line is, see, immigration is a completely different question. Now, if you qualify, if you're a physician, since you're a physician, and you apply through the point-based system, you qualify really nicely in order to get a PR. Now, getting a PR doesn't mean that you're going to get a job or you're going to get a position in Canada. So that you have to be careful about. So the number of PRs in Canada have gone up so much that there have been so many new things that Canada has created, like the Atlantic immigration pathway and many other things. So depending on whatever, I don't think a province per se is going to make a huge difference. All right, Dr. Inder, I completed my PG from Ukraine because I know the language, and second, I got my permanent residency there. So that's why I bought my whole family in Canada. So I want to, okay, I still don't see a question. Okay, Dr. Sheikh says, I completed my respiratory training in UK on Caesar pathway and now working as substantive consultant for 10 years. Okay. I have ECFMG certification in 1993. I don't want to go through training or fellowship. Well, I really have to look at your CV before I comment on anything, and before I exactly say anything. But given the fact that you've been in training for through the Caesar pathway, and now you're working as a consultant for 10 years. Sure, it's substantive. There might be opportunities to look for that. Look for directly a consultant position, and you could try Canada for sure, because Canada is favors more of UK training than the US does. So that is one option. And you don't need USMLE Step 3 to apply, but you certainly need USMLE Step 3 to get a full license. So I would strongly encourage, if this is something you want to do, that you can certainly do USMLE Step 3. And if you really want us to take a look at your CV and guide you exactly, I always encourage you can book a appointment with us so we can talk and see how exactly to approach your situation. Dr. Oza says, for strong CV in Tennessee pathway for orthopedic, apart from great publication, what other things would be important? So, bottom line is, see, you have to think of these things. Whenever you think of CV, there are three major categories. So, one is, how are you doing clinically? How are you doing with research? And how are you doing in the space of education? And if not for research, the other things you would excel is, how strong are you clinically in terms of, what are the types of cases you're doing, and what type of system are you working in, and things like that. And in terms of education, and you can also look into, how active you've been in terms of mentoring and training people, and those type of things. But for the most part, what really stands out is presence of publications, because if you think of something that is really concrete, that happens to be publications. Everything else can be, I'm saying everything is important. I'm not trying to downplay anything, but the value of publications is what would shine on an IMG, especially in a specialty like orthopedics, trying to look for alternate entry path programs. Now, if you get into a fellowship, which other IMGs have done, a clinical fellowship, then the opportunity or the options to get through alternate entry path in orthopedics significantly can go up. And we have seen this happen. All right. Dr. Jagdisha says, how long does it take for the program? I'm sorry, I recognize this name, but I need a bit more context because I'm answering so many questions. So please put the context as to what program you're talking about. Can you guide me in my USMLE journey, and I want to match in neurosurgery? Yeah, certainly. We'll be happy to take a look and guide you based on, whatever you think would be the most appropriate steps for you. Is it possible to get specialist pathway as pulmonologist after MD pulmonary medicine from India? Do you mean this is in the USA? See, USA doesn't have specialist pathways. USA, this is the Australia has what is called as a specialist pathway. In the USA, the options for someone from India is to get through a fellowship and then explore the other options. See, the vacancies keep stock market. It goes up and down. It really depends on what exactly is available when you are ready to apply. Okay, and how can you sell your application? How long does it take for the Canadian fellowship programs to respond to an application? Oh, I see. Well, they usually it depends. The way they would approach this is they would see if there are any local graduates who have applied. The second thing they would say is if there are any funded candidates who have applied. Once they go through these two things and then they come back to IMGs or non-funded, usually depending on the fellowship, they may respond as early as 3 days or they may respond as late as 3 months. And sometimes they don't even respond at all, in which case you can always get in touch with them and then send them a gentle reminder as to what's going on with your application. I would say, as a rule of thumb, you can do that after about 4 to 6 weeks. And don't and be very careful when you reach out to the programs. Don't be very pushy. Don't nag them. Be very polite and approach this more like a formal interview, a formal talking session, and then politely ask them what is going on with the applications. All right, Dr. Martha says, I am an ENT specialist with more than 25 years of university hospital experience in India with laryngology research, fellowship from USA with ECFMG certification and green card. Okay. I would like to know your question, sir. Hello, sir. I am medical graduate from India. Wants to know about house physician in Florida and the pathway for that. See, the house physician is meant for those IMGs who are fresh out of training and who wants to get some US experience. This is basically working like a junior doctor who has just finished their internship and working under supervision without any focus on specialization and things like that. In order to apply for this, you basically find the house physician positions and then you apply to them with your CV, with a cover letter, and telling them why they need to apply and stuff like that. So many of these do not sponsor a visa, but you might be able to find one or two who can, because mostly they take people with green card and people who are already here. There are many IMGs in the USA who are still trying to get into the system. So those are some of the people whom they may prefer, but this is how in general you would approach through this. All right, Dr. Kalyani says, hello sir, could you mind to guide regarding MCCQE pathway? Well, are you referring to how to navigate through the Canadian pathways? That we do. Now, what we don't do is how do theoretical based training of you getting prepared for MCCQ1. But meaning, I'm not going to teach you how a Krebs cycle works. What is a brachial plexus anatomy and things like that. But if you want a high level guidance of how to approach this, then certainly we would be more than happy to help you. Okay, making sense? Oh, all right. So today, actually, we won't be doing the wheel spin that my daughter usually does because she's not here, but we do have a discount code that I'm going to type here, okay? That if you end up doing any bookings with us, then you can certainly use this discount code in order to do the booking. This is going to give you some discount. And this coupon, I believe, is valid for 3 days. Okay. So if this is something you want to take the benefit of, because this is a thank you for all of you who have joined the live session. Okay. This is a thank you from the IMG Secrets team. And I encourage you, if you're interested to do that, make use of that. Okay. All right. Now, where were we with the questions? Now, Dr. Singh says, I have secured LORs. Should I be directly sending this to the program director or just send the email address from where I got LOR? Your referees would be sending the letters of references to the program or to the particular place where you have applied to. Okay, that's how the process works. Hello, sir. When accreditation for ECFMG is expected? I'm not sure if I entirely get that question. Sorry, you may want to rephrase that. So I was graduated from Chongqing Medical College in China. I would like to work as a physician assistant in Canada and do my further PG studies. Okay. All right, good to know. Dr. Chowdhury says, are there any links of hospital positions for applying to direct jobs in alternate pathway in valid states? How do I find out which hospitals have such vacancies? Does your team help us apply? Yes, we certainly help you apply. If there were links to apply for any positions, then there is no need for me and my team to do what we're doing. These are not something you find online, and these are not something you find online easily. We have to put a lot of experience and expertise into this in order to find those positions. What we do is we go search for these positions and then even talk to those people working in that specialization to get some information as to where the vacancies are and what's going on in that specialty. And that's how we decide on the jobs and how to apply. So these are things you don't find online. I mean, many things I'm telling you, you don't even find online. And that's the whole reason why we do this. So you get all this information from a reliable source, because being in the system, I see this happen in front of me and I talk to those people, and that's how I get my experience and share with you all. All right. Next question is from Dr. Asha, who says, I do recognize the name. I'm an assistant professor with 3 years post MD experience in internal medicine. Please tell me my options to secure a gastroenterology or an oncology fellowship. Now, here's the catch. There are many subspecialties in internal medicine. Some of them are less competitive, some of them are highly competitive. Now, gastroenterology or oncology are some of the more competitive fellowships. So, for those reasons, what I would recommend is try to look for fellowships that are not very competitive. Once you secure those, then you can move on to a fellowship of your choice as the next option. All right. I've been talking for the last hour or so. By the way, I do want to remind you of this session we're doing in. This is a in-person or a virtual session we would be doing in Bangalore on July 21st. So I'm traveling to Bangalore, India, where I have two other expert friends of mine who actually would be guiding you. We would take your specific example and then discuss exactly how to approach your situation, and then give an overall view of how to approach things like residencies, fellowship, paid consultant jobs, alternate entry path programs, and things like that. So I encourage you to book this. If you are able to come in person, I would be more than happy to talk to you in person. But if you are not able to come in person, then there would be a virtual option. We would send a Zoom link to you, and then you can join us from Zoom. Of course, you can ask any questions you want, and then we'll be more than happy to talk to you. So the session would be a 3-hour session on a Saturday afternoon on July 21st. This would include high tea and some snacks and other stuff, and then you would be interacting with us, and also with our IMG Secrets team members who are based in India as well. So great opportunity to see you all in person. So I look forward to seeing you, and you can book this session through our website, imgsecrets.com. All right. So next question. It is almost an hour. Okay, I might be able to take like a couple more questions, and I encourage you to use the coupon code. The coupon code I have left in the text below. It's IMG Secrets in capitals. You can use this for the next 3 days to get a discount in any of the bookings you do from our website. And this is a thank you from the IMG Secrets team for you all to join this live session. Okay, so I'll take a few more questions and then we'll call it a day. All right. Dr. Khan says, I am an FCPS internal medicine with more than 6 years of experience in pulmonology, non-training, but I have SCE respiratory medicine. Will I be able to acquire a respiratory fellowship in Canada? Now, the non-training is not a big concern. I mean, it can be so you have done internal medicine. The non-training I don't see as a concern for fellowship. I think you should be able to, because you're certified in medicine, you have 6 years of experience in specifically in pulmonology. Sure, it's fine. You're working as a pulmonologist, non-training, that's okay. I think so. I think you can certainly apply for a fellowship using that experience of your 6 years. Should be fine. All right. The next question is, I am a dermatology final year. Okay. I need 3 to 4 years of experience in a Western country before appearing for Gulf countries licensing exams. What is the best pathway? See, I mean, being in dermatology, I mean, it's not that straightforward to come in and work in USA, Canada, and then go back to Gulf countries. In your case, the option might be actually do a PG. Again, I haven't looked at your CV, but since you're still in your final year of residency, I assume you need to build your CV enough, and especially being in dermatology, then I would encourage you maybe look into the option of repeating your PG all over again, and then once you're certified in the USA and Canada, if you go to Gulf, then your pay is going to be significantly higher than someone who is coming directly from India. Now, if you didn't know about this, there is a huge bias in how Gulf countries pay money to IMGs. They look at where a person is trained from, and depending on that, they decide the pay. And we hear this a lot from many IMGs who constantly keep telling us about this. All right. Dr. Kalyani says, good evening, sir. Myself graduated from Chongqing Medical University. Would like to join as a physician assistant and to crack MCCQE1 following that. Could you mind to give a clarity? Well, you're looking at two different things. In order to be a physician assistant, you have to finish a physician assistant course and then be a physician assistant. And sure, if you be a physician assistant, then getting into residency, I mean, being a physician assistant is going to certainly help you getting into residency. Okay, does that answer your question? The next question says, for clinical fellowship, IELTS and OET both are acceptable. I think so. Canada is trying to make things so confusing that they are actually posting so many different English exams. So there is IELTS for some fellowships, OET for some fellowships. There is TOEFL IBT for other fellowships, and they've also introduced CELPIP. I have no idea why they are confusing this so much, but you may want to look at specifically what is required for your specialization and approach it that way. In general, yes, both are acceptable, but there have been some exceptions in the fellowships that we are seeing more and more. So just make sure you check those so you don't have to go through the pain of doing two different English exams. All right. So I'll take a couple more questions and we'll call it a day. Sir, I completed an MBBS in Russia and have 2 years of clinical experience. Can get clinical research job without MCCQ exam? Yes. In order to secure a research job, either in the USA or Canada, you do not need any exams. So don't go under the impression I haven't done USMLE, I cannot apply for a research job. You certainly can. A USMLE is required for only clinical jobs, not for research jobs. And so is MCCQ1 is required for residency, not for fellowships, not for research jobs. Did you hear that? Not even for fellowships, clinical fellowships. All right. I'm an IMG. Last question. I'm an IMG from India. Hello, Dr. Shah. Graduated in 2023, working as a physician assistant in clinic. You mean, are you working as a physician assistant in Canada or in India? I'm not sure. Which is the best position in non-clinical field to move forward? Well, if you're working as a physician assistant, again, I have to know a little more context about this. See, the non-clinical field is, in my opinion, should be used as a stepping stone to get into clinical work. Okay, so the best position, I mean, if you're using this as a stepping stone, would depend on what your specialization of interest is. For example, let's say you want to do residency in family medicine. So I would say pick any non-clinical in family medicine. So that way you can do some research work, establish some connections with consultants in family medicine who can then eventually give you a letter of recommendation. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. So I know I've been talking for the last 1 hour or so, and I have to thank you all for joining, and it was such a pleasure answering all your questions. So I do encourage to check our session in India, which you can join in person or from virtually anywhere in the world, so you don't miss out on things that we say there. And if you decide to book an appointment, I did leave a discount code that you can make use of, and that is IMG Secrets. And continue to watch our videos, and do let me know if you have any questions. And I also want to say that some of the IMGs have reached out to us by saying that they've been following what we have been saying on videos, and they've been successful in getting positions, and I'm so happy to hear that. And of course, we've been helping so many IMGs, and I congratulate all of those who have actually secured a position and who are almost close to secure a position. And you all have a great Saturday and Sunday, and it's so nice to answer your questions. Take care, stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.